In this video, I'm going to tell you the basics of different types of cross-stitching fabric and their pros and cons, to give you the confidence to choose the perfect piece of cross-stitching fabric for your project. Hi, my name is Marie and this is Caterpillar Cross Stitch channel. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is all about cross-stitching and tutorials, so remember to subscribe and hit the like button if you've learned something new today. Remember also to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for loads of stitching news and a lot of cross-stitch inspiration. This video is first in the How to Kit Up Your Own project series, and it's all about fabric. So if you're thinking about kitting up your own project and would like to know all the available options, this is the right place to be. After watching this video, you will understand the different types of fabric, different fabric counts, and pros and cons of each. Let's get started. There's three basic types of cross-stitching fabric: aida, evenweave, and linen. Aida is a sturdy cotton fabric evenly woven into a mesh with easy-to-see holes, making it the ideal fabric for beginners. The 11 and 14 count are very popular to begin with, and 16 and 18 count are easy to progress to. We'll talk about count in more detail later. Evenweave, as the title suggests, means that the fabric is consisting of evenly woven threads that are also of the same width. That means there are no slubs or inconsistencies in the fabric. It is made of a combination of cotton and synthetic thread, making it possible to be perfectly even. Evenweave fabric is available in a wide variety of higher counts, 28, 32 and 30 count being the most widely used. Last but not least, there's linen. It is a natural cloth woven from flax fibers. Because it's made from natural fibers, it often contains slubs and inconsistencies. It's also usually quite soft and it can be delicate. This, combined with the high counts it's available in, makes it generally regarded as a fabric for a more advanced cross-stitcher. Now that we know the different kinds of fabric and the basic difference between them, let's look at different fabric counts and the mysterious over 1 and over 2 lingo. Fabric count determines how many stitches can you make on a piece of fabric in a length of 1 inch. So, if I am stitching on 14 count fabric, it means that when I've stitched 14 stitches in a row, they will measure exactly 1 inch. Pretty straightforward. It's a bit different with higher count fabric though. From 28 count onwards, we usually only bring our needle through every second hole in the fabric. So to find out the number of stitches, we have to divide the count by 2. So with our 28 count example, it means that we're stitching 14 stitches per inch, which makes it an equivalent of 14 count fabric. This is also where stitching over 2 comes into it, because when we bring the needle through every other hole in the fabric, we're stitching over 2 fabric threads. In short, stitching over 2. There are some patterns that ask you to stitch over 1. You would bring the needle through every single hole in the fabric, meaning you would actually be stitching with density of 28 stitches per inch instead of 14. The same applies when we stitch on 32 count fabric. When stitched over 2, it becomes an equivalent of 16 count aida, so we can fit 16 stitches in 1 inch. Likewise, on 40 count linen, we will fit 20 stitches into 1 inch. That's why the same design, when stitched on different counts of fabric, increases or decreases in size. One of the major manufacturers of cross-stitch fabric, German Zweigart, gave linen names based on their counts, perhaps to make them a little bit easier to distinguish. So if you ever hear a fabric referred to as Bristol, it means 32 count linen. If you ever hear a name Edinburgh, it means 36 count linen, and Newcastle is 40 count. The most difficult available fabric being the 56 count Kingston. Likewise, Evenweave fabric also has got names, but they are a bit different to distinguish them from linen. So 32 count is Murano, 28 count is Brittany, sometimes also referred to as Lugana, and 40 count, for example, is called Verdal. Now that we know the different types of fabric and understand the different fabric count, let's look at pros and cons of each. The pros of aida fabric are definitely the big mesh, which make the holes really visible. That makes it super friendly for beginners and also for people who have maybe worsened eyesight. It is also really affordable and available in a multitude of colors directly from the manufacturer, which is the German Zweigart, who, by the way, invented aida specifically for cross-stitching sometime in the beginning of 1900s. It is often heavily starched, which makes it quite stiff, which is a preference to many stitches, but it can also be easily washed in a lukewarm soapy water to make it soft, which makes it a really versatile cloth. As for cons, well, as much as the large holes are a reason and a pro for many people and reason to pick up aida in the first place, for a lot of stitchers, it's actually the #1 reason why they opt for Evenweave or linen. That is because the Evenweave and linen holes are really small, and when stitching something like a sampler, you can't really see the holes when the finished object is displayed. It is also rather unsuitable for any patterns that call for a combination of over 1 and over 2 stitching, or for any fractional or specialty stitches. So I would recommend, before you choose to stitch on aida, that you check your pattern carefully just to make sure that none of the special stitches are called for. The good news about Caterpillar cross-stitch designs is that there are only full crosses, no fractionals, no over 1, nothing to be worried about, so you can always choose aida for Caterpillar cross-stitch designs with confidence, knowing that you've made the right choice. As for Evenweave, it's a perfect stepping stone from aida to higher counts. The pros are definitely its perfect woven consistency, which mean that your stitches are in a perfect uniform size. It's also great for any patterns that call for fractional or specialty stitches or over 1 stitching. What about the cons? Well, it definitely looks better in terms of the visibility of holes, if that's the look that you prefer. However, it still lacks a little bit in comparison with linen because of the synthetic blend that it's made of. Some of the Evenweave fabric can be a little bit stiff, and in my experience, it can fray your thread a little bit more. So you might want to consider stitching with slightly shorter lengths. Also, if you're into fabric dyeing at home or would like to give it a go, Evenweave dyeing is quite a bit more trickier because of the cotton and synthetic blend. As for linen, the uncrowned king or queen of cross-stitching fabric, the pros is definitely the elegant finished look of a cross-stitch project. The look, feel and texture of linen are simply superb. It's also available in a wide variety of counts, as we said, ranging from 28 to 56, so there really is something for everyone. It's also perfect, just like Evenweave, for fractional or specialty stitches and for projects that call for combining over 2 and over 1 stitching technique. As for the cons of stitching on linen, although it is generally quite even, there are some inconsistencies, as we've seen, which can make your stitches slightly uneven. The inconsistencies in combination with high fabric counts can sometimes make it quite easy to make a mistake. So for example, to bring your needle up in a 3rd hole instead of every 2nd, and only to find out half an hour later of stitching that you're off by half a row and you have to correct everything. The fine mesh can also make it a challenge for people with worsened eyesight, and that would usually require them using a magnifying glass in order to be able to stitch on linen, which can put a further strain on your eyesight. So, what's the conclusion? What is the best fabric for cross-stitching? Well, the answer is, of course, the fabric that makes you enjoy working on your project the most. I, for example, don't mind swapping between aida, Evenweave and linen, depending on the specific project that I'm working on and what I've chosen for it. So if I work on a full coverage piece, I tend to pick up 16 or 18 count aida or 25 count Evenweave stitching over one. And when I stitch a sample type of a project, which means that the cross-stitching fabric is visible around the stitched objects, I will usually pick linen in case it's a historical reproduction, a historical sampler, or I will happily choose aida or Evenweave when I'm stitching on a modern type of sampler, which is exactly what Sally at Caterpillar Cross Stitch designs. I will also prefer aida for projects that I take on the go for travel, or when I want to give my eyes a little bit of a downtime from stitching on the high counts. In next week's video, we're going to cut and measure your fabric and convert between counts like a pro to make sure that your fabric piece is big enough for your cross-stitch project. We will also cover the number of threads and a needle size needed for your project based on the fabric that you choose. I hope you have enjoyed diving into the world of cross-stitching fabric and various counts, but if it's a bit too overwhelming, don't worry. On our website caterpillarcrossstitch.com, there's a wide variety of cross-stitch kits available fully kitted for you, including aida and Evenweave fabric. Just like this Hello Sunshine tree, which was actually my first ever project stitched on an Evenweave. All Sally's designs on our website are available not only in kits, but also as a PDF. That's why we're creating this series to help you gain confidence in kitting up your own project. To stay up to date with all new releases or offers, PDF or otherwise, sign up to our newsletter, aka VIP Stitch Club. The link is in the description below. In return, you will get a PDF with 8 patterns on which you can try your kitting up skills straight away. Remember to also join our Facebook group and join almost 15,000 stitchers sharing their love for cross-stitch. And that is it for this week. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.